Hi, welcome to My Ag Life. We're here on day 2 of the Crop Consultant Conference in Visalia, California. I'm here today with Brad Bittleston, who's going to be giving a talk on pesticide container recycling guidelines. Brad is with Interstate Ag Plastics. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. You emphasize, or you're going to emphasize in your presentation, that inadequate rinsing of these containers when you're talking about recycling, it's the number one issue that is a threat to this whole system, this program. What would you say maybe are some of the most common mistakes that applicators are still making when recycling their containers, and how can some of that be hopefully easily avoided?
The main thing that farmers overlook is adequate training for their employees. If they can train their employees in such a way to help them realize that if they're not rinsing the containers adequately, then basically the farmer themselves are losing out on monetary gains. So why wouldn't you want to rinse those containers and get all the product out of the containers as much as you possibly can? EPA, it's the NCSABI S596 standards, basically state that 99.9% of the containers that are geared towards recycling have to be clean up to 99%, meaning that if you take your hand with a gloved hand and you take your finger and wipe that container, there shouldn't be any residue that comes off of that container. And so, falling back to what I said previously, if you rinse your containers thoroughly, you're getting your whole product out of that container, and that's going to benefit the farmer themselves.
Definitely. Brad, talk to me a little bit more about why we do this. In California is not the only state that recycles their containers, but why we take it so seriously here. What kind of negative effects does not properly preparing these containers to recycle have? What kind of fines even could people be looking at when they're not doing this properly?
Yeah, here in California, we're unlike any other state in the union, meaning that every county has their own ag commissioner department. And unlike other states like Arizona and Nevada, they have one department that basically rules over the whole state. But we're such a large ag community here that we have to have individual ag departments. And basically, not every county requires recycling. Some counties allow you to dump them in landfills still, but the majority require them to be recycled.
I just wanted to know what happens in this state, California, when folks aren't compliant with these guidelines. What kind of consequences can actually be faced here, and just iterating why this is so important?
Yeah, so as far as actual consequences, if your containers are not rinsed properly, then you can face a monetary fine in some counties, but that's not particular for all counties. Yeah, that's basically about that.
Definitely. And just to finish it off, besides just compliance, how do knowing these guidelines actually benefit the grower in the PCA, maybe from an environmental perspective, continuing to iterate why actually recycling these containers, recycling them properly is so important?
Yeah. Number one, these types of containers, they've all had either a pesticide, a spray adjuvant, or a fertilizer or whatnot, and your typical container you may think that chemical is actually contained in the container, but in fact, that chemical will actually leach into the plastic. So our program is geared towards taking that plastic out of the ag community and recycling it in a responsible way that the end uses of that plastic is manufactured into products like field drainage pipe, a binder board for garden services. Basically, it becomes made into products that people don't regularly come in contact with, and those products are all approved by a nonprofit organization called the Ag Container Recycling Council, we're in partner with, that actually helps us go out and collect these ag containers.
Definitely. I know you guys have collected just at Interstate over 35 million pounds of containers in around the last 19, 20 years. On average in the state each year, how many pounds of plastic is actually being recycled through programs like this?
Yeah, we're different from the rest of the country. There's actually 11 contractors in total for the Ag Container Recycling Council, and we take care of California, Arizona, and Nevada. And on average, we'll collect between 2.5 to 3 million pounds per year annually. And all of that plastic that we collect is regulated and tracked, and we know exactly where we get the plastic from, how much each farmer has, and it's just part of our requirements that we have to know. And then we also have steps on where exactly every pound of plastic goes and what it gets made into.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Further continuing to iterate the importance that we recycle this for a reason. It gets reused into more sustainable materials. Like you said, materials that don't necessarily come into contact with humans as much, but stuff that we can use again. So it's important, not only from a compliance perspective, but the fact that you could consider it a sustainable practice for the state. Brad, thank you for coming on the show today, talking a little bit more about container recycling. I learned a lot. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, Taylor, and I appreciate again being here as well.